Welcome back into that Sean podcast. Is I, that big Ush, is he, the cat daddy. And I don't know if we still have that excitement going, or maybe we're just like tired, like we ate too much turkey. But I know that I got a little bit of spurts left just to give you a good show this week. Cat daddy, what's on your mind?
Man, I hope that you left milk and cookies out for Mel Kiper Jr. on draft eve, because he delivered a lot of good drafts, I thought, this year. A lot of good classes for teams, and now that the debates of who should go where are all over, now we get to talk about, was that good? Was that a good selection? So we go from one debate to the next debates.
All right. I'm going to give you this. Mel Kiper Jr. had one of my WTF moments of the weekend. We're going to get into it in a different episode, but Mel Kiper Jr., I get that certain prospects are this, and that, but you going to poo-poo a defensive end, a pass rusher, for not being able to play the run? Or not being good at the run, I'm sorry. He just rushes the passer? Last time I checked, this is a passing league, and you need to rush the passer. Just saying, you hit a nerve there. But without further ado, let's get into it. We're gonna just do a little recap, talk a little bit about the draft. We're gonna give some of our favorite draft classes. We're gonna give you our favorite draft picks, our least favorite picks, things of that nature. But before we get into any of that draft news, we gotta give you some downer news. So, what looks like apparently Mr. DeAndre Hopkins has been suspended by the league for performance-enhancing drugs for 6 games. Now, DeAndre Hopkins has said that he takes special care what goes into his body, and he has no clue how this happened. I'm not saying that the league needs to do a little bit better, because I've heard more and more of these cases of, these situations where the lab is a little careless. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm just saying that, But Cat Daddy, any thoughts on this?
I think the way that DeAndre Hopkins described it was confused and shocked by the positive PED test.
Yeah.
And I think the more I thought about it, I was shocked and confused that it took so long, since this was from a November test that came back positive with trace elements of a banned substance. So was he trying to get a competitive advantage? It doesn't sound like it. But that has not stopped the Twitterverse and all the other social media outlets and people from criticizing him and giving him a hard time, roasting him about his choice to not get vaccinated but put PED substance in his body. So that was amusing, but I don't think it was anything that was blatant and intentional. There's a long list of banned substances. Yeah, it's trace elements of a banned substance. Doesn't sound like anything.
That sounds like somebody at the lab mishandled something and they're not fessing up.
I mean, he and his team are shocked, and they continue to say that anything that came up in the test was inadvertent. He was planning to appeal, but ultimately he ended up withdrawing that appeal. I don't think that by itself means anything. I think that's just a way to not further delay something.
He didn't want to get Lyle Collins.
And it could be a situation like that where he's thinking, well, if I can't beat this anyways, why am I going to appeal?
Exactly.
They're going to be pretty firm on that decision. But the question I have, right, the question I'm going to throw out there is, DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for 6 games, only 6 games, for violating the league's policy on PED.
You going to talk about the gambling?
It would have been the same suspension had he intentionally taken performance enhancing drugs,
True.
right? He still would
True.
receive 6 games. So how come his suspension is only 6 games when Calvin Ridley is suspended for an entire year, and then he needs to reapply, or he needs to apply for reinstatements for betting on games that he was not playing in and he had no insider information on? Where I get that rules are rules, but the punishments don't seem very consistent from the league.
Damn it, Cat Daddy. Don't you understand that gambling, which is being legalized everywhere, is a problem?
But performance enhancing drugs are not as big of a problem.
Oh, of course not. Because everybody does them.
So I'm just confused by that part. It's unfortunate that Hopkins test results came back that way.
I mean, let's talk about years ago when weed was the same punishment as PEDs. Like, I mean, the league is nonsense. It's complete nonsense. We know this. We specify this. We love the game of football. We love the product the NFL puts out there, but the NFL itself is suspect. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it seems like they're behind the times when it comes to certain things like marijuana in football and gambling in football. Pretty soon, gambling is going to be something that's common
everywhere.
Should the players do it? I think the answer to that should still be no, but I don't think they should have a season ban.
No. I mean, if you're Pete Rose and that stuff, that's a little different. But yeah. Now, that being said, let's get into the draft. The first notable thing.
Now we're going to go into DeAndre Hopkins a little bit more, because that DeAndre Hopkins outcome actually affected the draft. Are we going to talk about that piece?
We will get there.
We're going to get there.
In a little bit, we can talk about that. But I want to relish for a little bit first. I want to bask in my glory. I want to just let the people know who the champion is, and he will hold the crown this year, and you will have to wait a full year to try to take it. Yes, people. Big Ush over here demolished the Cat Daddy in the draft game. Hey, I beat you by 10 points.
I'm not sure if those were the same adjective that I used, but sure, we'll go with it.
I'm pretty sure I beat you by 10 points.
Let me double check to confirm. I think it was double digits, but let me confirm. You go ahead and rant. I'll circle back toward the ends.
But I mean, basically, I was just, gloating just a little bit, just to, jab it in a little bit, and you can't refute it. I did win.
You did. It was the selections were good. Your mock was good. You started off the right way by getting Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson correct in the correct spots.
And then I got the corners right, just not in the right spots. Because that's the thing, I did guess back-to-back corners, which I was very surprised that happened. We went back-to-back ends, then back-to-back corners. And then the Giants, I got Thibodeau just in the wrong spot.
It was good. It was fun. Let's see.
Now, that being said, while you're looking for that, let's talk about this Trayvon Walker pick for a second here. How we feel about this? A very traitsy guy who, yes, good character guy, going first overall. A guy who did not have the production that you would expect.
I wonder with this pick if Trent Baalke's job is on the line. That's what kind of makes me think like he's going for really high upside, because if this one fails, if Trayvon Walker doesn't pan out how they're expecting him to, what does that mean for Trent Baalke? I mean, he already has a history of not doing the greatest when it comes to draft picks, which is why I'm really surprised that Khan allowed him to make that pick and go with his guy. It almost, I was hearing earlier that the Jaguars may use Trayvon Walker as a stand-up rusher instead of with a hand in the dirt, which I think would be really interesting. I'm not sure that's a good way, though. But you and I talked before, and we mentioned on the pod in our mocks previously that we didn't think that Jacksonville should have gone defensive line, defensive end, edge. We thought they should have attacked the offensive line.
Right.
Yeah,
Agreed.
And it's not just because I selected Aiden Hutchinson in our mock draft, but I didn't think Trayvon Walker was the best selection.
Well, the whole thing is, and I know you value the production, and he did not have the production. He has all the athletic ability in the world, but he did not have the production at Georgia. And the question here is, how much of this is these guys as a collective whole? All these Georgia players that went, how much of this was a collective whole of talent that made this happen, and how good are they on their own? That is the big question here. Jordan Davis, how good is he going to be in Philly, coupled with Nakobe Dean there? Quay Walker, how good is he going to be in Green Bay? Who else went? Also to Green Bay, Devontae Wyatt. Lewis Seen went to Minnesota. These are the question marks. When you have a defense that good, how much of it is the fact that you just have a bunch of guys who are really good, and how good are these guys really? I know that's
a good coach.
That. And with a good coach. I mean, that being said, there are some other questions here, like Kayvon Thibodeau. Is he going to turn it on at the NFL level? Or is what we saw in college what we get? I know he had a ton of energy at the draft, but I'm going to be honest.
Who doesn't have energy there?
Well, he had a little bit more than most. I know if I'm the Giants, I need to see more. Who else? Who was the one was it Sauce that got lost?
Sauce got lost. He did.
You can't be getting lost on the field, bruh.
He did. I love the jokes out there. I love the jokes that were saying he looks like he got drafted by the Jets. He's trying to find a way out.
All right, then I did get Drake London as the first receiver off the board. I'm not surprised by it. It's interesting though that was the Falcons, considering they have Kyle Pitts. It feels like more of the same, doesn't it?
It's a big receiver. It's a little bit. It's almost like with Tampa Bay when they had, O.J. Howard and they had Mike Evans. Like, you're going to have two big targets out there, which can be a good thing. But you need something else to complement those big targets. And right now, Atlanta doesn't have it on their roster. They have Cordero Patterson, but he's not necessarily a gadget player, but
no,
he's not that guy.
No, he's not.
As a wide receiver, he's like an offensive weapon. You need another wide receiver who can take pressure off of Drake London, but Atlanta doesn't have it yet. Could this be a good start for them? Absolutely.
Speaking of wide receivers, they bought this draft. See, don't blame Cat Daddy for certain things. This draft did a lot of things that were outside the realm of what he was expecting. For example, we had conversations about how many wide receivers were really going to go in the first round, and there were 6 taken by pick 18.
There were 6 taken between number 8 Atlanta, and number 18 Tennessee. There were 6 within that range.
That was wild.
It absolutely was. I was not expecting 6 to go in that range because I was thinking, man, there's got to be like a wide receiver that's going to fall to Green Bay at 22, but the NFL proved me wrong there. And it just goes to show, the status of wide receiver and how they affected the entire offseason. And I like to think it all started with Christian Kirk signing that big deal at Jacksonville, because once he got that big deal, then the price for premium good wide receivers just skyrocketed. And it led to Devontae Adams being traded, signing a massive contract. Tyreek Hill getting traded, signing a massive contract. It led us to the draft where teams are thinking, man, do we really want to pay a wide receiver $25-30 million per year, or we can just draft a really good one here early? And I think that's what led to the run, and it led to Tennessee trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles. And it's funny that the return pick Tennessee received, they drafted Treylon Burks, who had comparisons to A.J. Brown.
Right.
So they're like, let's find a cheaper version of A.J. Brown.
But with that said, I mean, this is what I was saying, and maybe the NFL's going that route. It's the whole fact of the matter. Let's make wide receiver. Let's prioritize wide receiver, get our use out of them. And then if a team wants to trade for them, we can do the Green Bay KC route, get that
Flip
going.
them for picks.
Get the picks going. And then we'll take another younger guy to develop in same cycle.
Yeah, if you can get a cheaper player.
Especially with how they're developing these days.
Yeah, they're coming out of the gate hot. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. You got to bet that at least one of these wide receivers taken in the first round, even some taken in the second, will be able to put up much better production than in years previous. Because I think before, wasn't it, you expected a wide receiver to break out in year 3. First 2 years were a little bit slow, but then you were kind of banking on that year 3 breakout, and that's already been accelerated to the rookie season. So
but
this is going to be nuts.
You notice the positions that we're taking. Yes, we did have 2 corners go very early. Then other than those 2, you look at its edge, offensive line, wide receiver. You got basically mixed in there, but before pick 21, before Kenny Pickett goes at pick 20, mixed in there is a defensive tackle and a safety and 2 corners. But other than that, by pick 20, other than 4 picks, it's all wide receiver, offensive line, and defensive end. That's wild.
What was it? 6 wide receivers. It was 5 offensive linemen. There were 3 edges. There were 2 cornerbacks by the time pick 20 came around. It was unusual.
And then after pick 20, it got a little wild too. That's when the corners came off the board. Green Bay takes a linebacker, but not the linebacker that people think. There's a center that comes off the board. But going back to that quarterback pick, it's not the quarterback everybody thought was going to come off the board. The highest floor quarterback comes off the board, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm unimpressed. It's not my worst pick, by mind you. I'm unimpressed.
I said that before, and I'm gonna say it again. There should not have been any quarterbacks drafted in round 1 this year. And there definitely should not be any rookie quarterbacks starting week 1.
No,
and I think that says a lot about that class, because we only had 1 quarterback get picked in the first round, and that was Kenny Pickett, number 20, to the hometown Pittsburgh Steelers. There were 3 running backs that got drafted before the second quarterback came off the board. Breece Hall went in round 2. Kenneth Walker III went in round 2. I think James Cook went at the end of round 2. And then that second quarterback doesn't come off the board until the 3rd round.
Want to know what's hilarious?
The part I found hilarious was there were 2 tight ends taken off the board before that second quarterback came off the board.
Well, want to know something really funny?
What's that?
I have 3 rookie quarterbacks out of this class that will start at least one game this season, and not a single one of them is named Kenny Pickett.
The expectations have to be really high for Kenny Pickett because he was the only quarterback that was selected in round 1.
They should be, but I'm telling you right now, I can see Malik Willis, his path to playing, because Ryan Tannehill's gotten injured before, and Ryan Tannehill's looked lackluster, and the fact of the matter is, if he shows any little bit of that ability that he's shown, and he shows any little case of developing, people are going to want him to play.
It's very true. That's true.
And then Desmond Ridder. Are you banking on Marcus Mariota starting the whole year?
He should.
Are you banking on him being healthy the whole year?
No, I'm not.
And then Carson Wentz. They call me Mr. Glass.
They call me Mr. Glass.
I mean, come on. You know for a fact he's going to miss at least one game.
Not that Sam Darnold will get injured, but will he play himself out of a starting job?
Sam who? Oh,
Sam Darnold. Will he play himself out of a starting job, which will open the way for Matt Corral?
And he might get injured. He did get injured last year. You forgot that. He has also been injury prone. All 4, all those quarterbacks we just talked about have been injury prone at some point or another. Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's probably the one that may not get injured. But you just helped me out with my point.
Yep, and then Bill Belichick goes and throws everybody a curveball and selects Bailey Zappi in the 4th round while Sam Howell was still on the board.
Right. Weird. Yeah. Also, speaking of Bill Belichick, the Cole Strange pick threw a bunch of people through a loop, especially Sean McVay. But I'm hearing it's because the NFL was higher on Cole Strange than, us couch potato scouts. Apparently, there are people in the NFL that hold Cole Strange higher than Tyler Linderbaum. That's not, I know you're pausing, but that's not hyperbole or anything like that. That's real.
And I wonder if that has anything to do with the positional versatility that Cole Strange will have compared to Linderbaum, who
I think it has
plays
to do with
exclusively.
The functionality. Because say what you want to say, I also think Linderbaum's a damn good player, but he's small. He's got short arms and he's undersized. Where Cole Strange's arms are out of this world long, and he is a huge big boy.
Yeah, and the more that the draft process went on, it sounded like Linderbaum would have to go to a specific offense in order to really reach his potential, which could have limited some of that, the upside that teams see in him.
And he went to a perfect place in the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to some of the fun stuff. So before we get out of here. So, first, Cat Daddy, give me a couple of your favorite drafts. I'm sure some of ours line up. What are some of your favorites?
Some of my favorite drafts included the Baltimore Ravens, who I thought got a steal literally every time they made a selection. Then I thought the Kansas City Chiefs did a really good job of finding talents and trading and moving around the board to get talents. I thought they did a really good job. And New York Jets. I thought for all the years that the Jets have just done poor with drafting, it's like this year they redeemed the last 10 years of poor drafting. This year I thought they absolutely knocked it out of the park in just about every round.
So mine, again, I agree with you. Baltimore Ravens, fantastic draft. Like, these guys are good at this. They're very good at this. You know, it's apparent they're good at this. I hate to say it, those Eagles. The Eagles have a really good draft because you have to include A.J. Brown in there. So,
Yeah.
you know, but hey, it is what it is. They still got to be coached, and they still need to be thrown the ball. So we'll see how that goes. And then, yes, I agree with you also. I mean, I like the Jets, but I'm going to put KC up there. I thoroughly enjoy what KC did with a lot of their draft. They needed a good draft considering what the other teams in their division have done. So that's going to be a fun division to watch this year. All right, I'll give my drafts I didn't like so much. My top drafts I didn't like. And here's the thing. I got to say this. It's in a vacuum. So in a vacuum, I really liked this draft. The problem is this team did nothing to actually really help itself. And that's the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears did a lot of fantastic picks that, yes, helped their defense. But the problem is this is a passing league, like we said earlier. And in the passing league, you need to have offense. And your offense is the same offense. Actually, things have changed. You've lost players. You've lost your best players on that offense. So your offense is actually worse than it was before. So you made really great picks to help out your defense. You guys are still gonna suck. So I'm sorry, Bear fans. I don't know what to tell you there. Your GM did exactly the one thing that we were discussing that we thought he shouldn't do. He made really awesome picks at places that aren't going to help you this year. Sorry. Then another draft that I don't know what they were doing. I have no clue what the Jacksonville Jaguars were doing. Yes, I actually don't poo-poo the Trayvon Walker pick like you, but there's other you doubled up on off-ball linebacker in early rounds. Why? I explain, people. Explain. Like, you did nothing to help out. Again, another team that did nothing, absolutely nothing to help their young quarterback. I don't know, like, Trent Baalke, you just plain stupid. Every move you've done this whole offseason doesn't make any particular sense to me. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Another draft that I'm not so fond of, San Francisco 49ers. It's not that they did anything bad. It's one of them. You look at the draft, and you're like, meh. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe. I mean, I hope it works out for you, but there's nothing to get me excited. You know what I'm saying? And I get excited from offensive line play, trust me. But like their particular draft, so if you're gonna say, well, someone got an offensive lineman that's not sexy, I'm not talking about sexy draft. I'm talking about give me players that get me excited. Their draft does not get me excited.
No, it didn't. It didn't. Some drafts I didn't like. I kind of group Chicago and Jacksonville together because, as you were saying, in a vacuum, it's not like they were bad.
No,
if you were starting, well, if you're starting from scratch, right? If you have a blank slate, you're going through the draft.
2.
Hey, maybe that's a strategy, but when you factor in everything else in team building, you're thinking, but didn't they just sign Atlanta's linebacker this offseason? So now they added 2, so now it starts to look worse. And now when you factor in that Trevor Lawrence didn't add any guard or tackle to his offensive line, to give him any protection. You're thinking,
Yeah, but
well,
we signed Cam Robinson.
maybe that
Well,
Trayvon
maybe
Walker
cussing the
pick
ball.
should have gone to like an Ikem Ekwonu and Evan Neal, somebody who can give him protection. And it's not as if Jacksonville added any playmakers to the offense, because Trevor Lawrence's number one wide receiver is still going to be Christian Kirk. And it's very similar for the Bears, as you were saying, in a vacuum. Not bad picks, but when you're factoring in team building, all right, well, the Bears took 4 offensive linemen in the third day. Well, it's great that they took the offensive linemen, but how many third-day offensive linemen are actually going to make the team?
And what's with the Bears taking
start?
these wide receivers nobody knows? I'm not trying to knock these receivers. Like, Darnell Mooney has played well, but these are not the guys that are like highly touted. The Bears are like, let's look at that wide receiver that nobody's talking about. That's who we want.
That's the guy we want. Yeah, I know. So, in a vacuum,
and the guy they
good.
picked,
In real life,
the guy they picked was what was his name?
Velus Jones Jr.
Right. And I mean, he looks like he could be something, even though.
He looks like he could be something because he was a 6th-year senior.
What?
This was a grown man playing against
Jesus.
boys. He's going to be 25 years old when the season starts. He's been in college football for 6 years, and his breakout season was his 6th and final season. And the Bears took him in the 3rd round.
Guess who someone comped him to, which doesn't even bode that great considering how long it took this person to develop.
Who's that?
Cordero Patterson.
Oh man, see that's just bad. Like I wanted the Packers to look at Jones on the 3rd day as a potential special teams contributor and wide receiver, but I would not have wanted him as an offensive weapon primarily. Mm-hmm. So Jacksonville, Chicago, I grouped together. Another draft I didn't like was the New England Patriots. Now, it's Bill Belichick, right?
Hard to bet against him.
It's hard to. He was looking for speed. He was looking for athleticism. I just felt like everybody he was selecting was like in that reach category.
I'm trying to save it for
I know, so am I. So am I.
Because there's a lot to say there.
There is. And another draft I wasn't as big of a fan of would be the New York Giants. Ooh. I mean, if you have 2 top 7 picks, they should be phenomenal.
You don't think they were phenomenal?
They were, but everything after that, like you're expecting top 7 picks
What's
to
going
be
on with Kadarius Toney?
High caliber.
What's going on with Kadarius Toney?
Where it started going downhill for the Giants for me, and this is without any further knowledge, is taking Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd round when you have Kadarius Toney, who's pretty similar. He's a player that you get him the ball, you let him create, and now you have 2 on your team. Your offense had a hard time getting Kenny Galladay the ball last year.
Just give him that nugget. We're going to talk more about them in the next episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Cat Daddy, we'll start with you on this element. Who was your favorite pick in the entire draft?
The entire draft, I think all 31 teams made a huge mistake by allowing the Baltimore Ravens to draft Kyle Hamilton, number 14.
All 31 teams. It wasn't all.
These teams had the opportunity to trade up when they saw the wide receiver run. They had the opportunity to trade up and get a fallen Kyle Hamilton. So yes, I do blame all 31 teams for that. But how they allow that talent to go to that organization where he's going to be an all-pro. And you're going to look back at this draft by Baltimore and you think, man, this is like a Hall of Fame draft, and this is going to be a Super Bowl caliber team in a couple of years. And you're going to look back to this draft and all those teams that took the wide receivers because they were getting desperate. And Baltimore's like, wide receivers? We're just going to draft tight ends and run the 13 package the whole time. That's all we're doing.
All right, so my player is also a Baltimore player, but is not Kyle Hamilton. As much as I love Kyle Hamilton, I thought it made a lot of sense. I'm going to go with Travis Jones in the 3rd round. there's a lot of people out there being like, oh, snap! Philadelphia Eagles just went up and sniped the Baltimore Ravens. They took Jordan Davis. What are you going to do, Ravens? What are you going to do? Well, the Ravens are like, we're just going to chill out, take Kyle Hamilton. Then we're going to take some guys in the next round that, are going to be pretty good. And then the third round, this guy who's a big beast of a man named Travis Jones is just going to fall into our laps. And we're going to be like, see, we got a plan, people.
Yeah, it was a really good plan. Travis Jones is a player I was really high on. I wanted the Packers to draft. And
in the first round.
In the first round, I think he is that talented. He could have gone in a different alternate universe. He would have gone in the first round.
In Cat Daddy's universe.
I know, my universe. And I just want to throw it out there real quick that I correctly predicted that Philadelphia would trade up with Houston for the sole purpose of drafting Jordan Davis. But you still won. But I'm going to take my victory there.
Well, maybe you should have put it on your draft.
It was on my draft.
Oh, you did?
I did. I mocked that one. I mocked the Houston-Philly trade. It's how the draft started that really... the two cornerbacks going back-to-back. I didn't expect that.
I did.
I know you did. I think that's what hurt me because I didn't get any points for Derek Stingley because I didn't project it at number 7, but we're getting off track.
All right.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
And then, all right, so my worst pick of this draft. So it was between two players, both selected by the Bears. And this is not about the players. It's about where they went. So there's Kyler Gordon out of Washington, cornerback, and then there's Jaquan Brisker, safety of Penn State. Now, I like Jaquan Brisker better as a player, so I'm going to say Kyler Gordon, cornerback out of Washington. And I get it. Bears need whatever they need, but I'm sorry. With all those receivers on the board, you going to go and wait because you wanted Kyler Gordon with Christian Watson still on the board, who went to Green Bay. You got Sky Moore, who went to Kansas City, with George Pickens, who went to Pittsburgh. I'm sure there's another receiver that was out there.
Alec Pierce.
What? Oh, yes, Alec Pierce went to
Indianapolis.
You decide that you're going to take Kyler Gordon and then wait and get Value Jones Jr., a 25-year-old special teamer. Shame on you, Bears. Shame on you.
And it's really funny because in last week's episode, when we were talking about the draft and doing the predictions, one of the questions I was asking you is, what is Chicago going to do? Are they going to build this draft around Justin Fields?
And we said
because
they
they have a new coach. It's defensive-minded head coach coming in. And the question I was asking was, are they going to build the defense or surround Fields? And I think your answer was surround Fields. And the end of Chicago's like, you know what? Let us prove you wrong.
It's because
Let
I
us
got
look
common
foolish
sense.
in the process.
I got common sense. I'm not a Chicago Bear. I'm sorry. It's like, no offense, Bear fans, but it's like people get into your organization and you lose all sensibility on how to do regular things. I mean, what is that nonsense? I'm sorry. I'm a chill. Who is your worst player? This draft. Can be started about the Bears right now.
We'll save that for the NFC North when we talk about that.
Oh, and there's going to be some spice. I'll tell you that.
All right, my worst pick of the draft was made by the New England Patriots. It is Tyquan Thornton, who was selected at number 50 in the second round.
Woo!
And I
go.
know that Bill Belichick was looking for speed, and he got it. But he selected Tyquan Thornton while the following players went a few selections later. George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Sky Moore.
I'm sorry. How does it make any sense to take Tyquan Thornton over Sky Moore? Sky Moore's got speed. His route running so... You go ahead, talk.
No, you're absolutely right. It's better wide receivers who can be more of a threat. The only reason we know of Tyquan Thornton ahead of the draft
he's fast.
is because of the 40 time he ran at the combine. That's the only reason. If he would have ran a 4.44, if he would have ran some pedestrian time, middle of the pack, nobody would be thinking twice about him. But everybody wants that speed player. Everybody wants the guy with
wide receivers.
Everybody wants the guy with wheels because they think, oh, there's so much potential there because he can run a straight line fast without a uniform or without pads and a helmet on.
Have we forgotten Darius Hayward-Bay, John Ross?
John Ross. Yeah, I'm not saying speed is overrated, but when you're taking a guy in the second round because of speed, when you have better proven, at least collegiate receivers, man, I just don't get it. But again, it's Bill Belichick. It's not mine to get.
All right, so to get a little quicker here, because we going a little long, we got two more basically things of the same thing to talk about. There were some draft trades and some players were traded on draft day. There is the big time one that everybody knows, that Philly traded with Tennessee, got AJ Brown to be, and he's going to be, and then they give him a big deal. So AJ Brown is now a Philadelphia Eagle, and I would be scared if Philadelphia had a quarterback, but in my opinion, they don't. But I mean, it's still a good get for them. They will be competitive. They did make the playoffs last year. So a lot of people are saying they're the team to beat now in the NFC East. Everybody wants to knock Dallas. People tried to say that Washington was the team to beat last year because they had Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, no.
For one half.
No.
1 quarter.
AJ Brown is more than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I still think Dallas is the top team. But we'll talk more about that. Any thoughts on this trade here?
I thought it was a great move by Philadelphia. They've been looking for a proven wide receiver. They know that Jalen Reagor wasn't the option. They weren't about to spend a draft pick on it. So they wanted somebody to go out there because Jalen Hurts needs to perform. They need to find out what they have in Jalen Hurts. So I thought it was a good trade.
I also thought it was good for Tennessee. They get younger there. I mean, I think they might have felt that there's something missing there because they had AJ Brown there for a little bit. I think there was something missing with that organization in him. So I think that it was good for them to get younger at the receiver point. They still need more, but I don't know. Them letting Julio Jones go, I see that they needed a change there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is definitely a difference between the two because Antonio Brown ended up getting $25 million that he was happy with from Philly on an annual basis, and Tennessee was only offering 16. So that shows you what they thought about Antonio Brown.
Yeah. And then, all right, then we had this other trade, which I think the team absolutely got fleeced, but we think it may be reactionary. So,
definitely.
The Arizona Cardinals and the Baltimore Ravens completed a trade where the Arizona Cardinals received Marquise Hollywood Brown, and a third-round pick for their first-round pick, which the Ravens turned into, I believe it was Tyler Linderbaum.
The Ravens ended up... Yeah, they got Linderbaum with that one. I think they traded back with Buffalo.
Now, this trade, I think, is a big-time win for the Ravens. I think Hollywood is extremely overrated. I thought he was overrated coming out in the draft. I think he's still overrated. I think he was worth a 1, even if they gave up a 3. But I also think this is a pure reactionary trade because DeAndre Hopkins is going to be out for 6 games, and they wanted to get a guy that Kyler Murray would trust.
Absolutely. They played together at Oklahoma years ago, so there's some level of familiarity there, but Arizona needs to perform this season. They have to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You have Kyler Murray, who's fighting for a contract, fighting for his extension, while his head coach and GM already have their extension, so there's far less pressure on them, but I still think on some level Cliff Kingsbury's got to be on a little bit of a hot seat with how the offense has performed. And Kyler Murray does not play well when DeAndre Hopkins is out of the lineup. The points per game goes down, passing yards per game go down, passing efficiency goes down. So the offense passing game runs through DeAndre Hopkins. They need someone to step in, and they're hoping it's Marquise Brown. So I think that was definitely a planned move once they became aware of the DeAndre Hopkins.
All right, so we're gonna anything more to add, because we're about to wrap this episode up.
Let's see. Tyrann Mathieu is heading home to Louisiana for the New Orleans Saints. Signed a 3-year deal, and Grady Jarrett got the bag, so he's staying in Atlanta for a couple more years.
That he did. All right, any words of wisdom, Cat Daddy?
Don't forget about Mother's Day.
Yeah, that is good. That is very good. I'm gonna keep it on point. Remember, people, these drafts, yes, it's all fun. We get to get excited about them right now, but you don't get the fruits of your labor right away. Not all the time. You won't know what the true grade of these drafts are until 4 years from now. It's just the way it works.